Greetings, Murray School District educators, and welcome to the Spring Summative Testing Training for all Murray District teachers. The purpose of our SAGE District Testing Administration is to talk about school accountability, to give an overview of the key concept for test administrators for all of the testing grades, testing ethics, do's and don'ts, and to talk about the training tests for the practice SAGE and the benchmark modules that are available. As an overview, let's talk about how school performance will be measured for upcoming years. In the past, our model used to be based on growth and proficiency. So for elementary and middle schools, you'll see how that model has changed. 37% for growth, 37% proficiency, and you can see how our English language learners and the growth of our lowest 25% factors into our grade now and into school performance. In addition, you'll see also that we'll have a new grading system. That grading system will be absolute. No more changing that target as has been happening in the past. There will be a set criteria for letter grades. We will also have additional new metrics, and there will also be an opportunity for schools and districts to highlight their own improvement measures and a reporting dashboard. High schools have additional metrics as well. If you ask your school administrator, you will be able to get a copy of this report card as well. Murray City School District has identified their goals for 2022. Across the top, you can see our goal for English language arts is 64% proficiency. Our goal for math is 66% proficiency, and our goal for science is 67% proficiency by 2022. Each of the schools for elementary and junior highs are listed here. So you can see where our current proficiency rates are, 46%, 47%. So in 4 years, we have quite a differential to make up, but if we chunk that out over the next 4 years, completely plausible. Each of your school administrators know what their goal is, and they also have a 4-year plan to achieve that goal. It is in their school improvement plan. If you're not familiar with your school's school improvement plan, please make sure you ask your school administrator or members of the school leadership team. So when we talk about SAGE, what changes are in store for the spring of 2018? There aren't many changes other than in SAGE Science, including the new SEED standards for grades 6, 7, and 8. There will be practice cluster tests available on the training site, but there will not be any immediate results for science for grades 6, 7, and 8 until, as we understand it, October. There will also only be one writing prompt for grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 11, and that could be any one of the 2 different types of writing prompt that would be randomized. If writing has been taken earlier in the year, and that was not the case in Murray City School District, but that will take a little bit of time for the language arts scores to be calculated, but those scores are immediately available within the next 24 hours after the student takes the reading portion of the SAGE exam. So let's talk about why we have kids take the SAGE test. If kids don't give each test their best effort, then we don't have the information that we need to make the best decisions about what kids already know and what they still need to learn. So you can see here this child kind of looks like he's struggling, but we really need to make sure that our kids are giving their best effort. We don't want kids to go in and start just guessing at all of the wrong answers, but rather we want them to go in prepared and giving their best effort so that we can get the right data in our hands in order to make effective instructional decisions. How do we do that? Well, we want to give kids a win. Learning happens when students get what they need and they're met where they are and supported in all that they do. That's when learning happens. Each child has their own pathway and their own progression, and we're able to create a learning path that best meets their needs. So what can we do as a school? Well, certainly we want to make sure that students do their best and take the test seriously. Their SAGE tests will be shared with their parents, and their SAGE scores, most importantly for them, is that their SAGE scores are used as part of course placement, especially for 6th graders going into 7th grade, 9th graders going into 11th grade, into 10th grade. Those are used to place them into their honors courses or AP courses. But they're also used to give us information to take into consideration when we're preparing our lesson plans and in preparation for final exams or final projects. Make sure during testing that the test administration manual is followed, that we give all of the students the correct accommodations, and that we appropriately proctor the test. And we are encouraged to make sure that our opt-out students are given an alternate assessment, not because they opt out, but because we want to make sure that we have appropriate information for students to move on and move forward so that we can make appropriate informed decisions for their teaching. The main purpose for SAGE is to help know where students are on their path to college and career readiness. It aligns with the ACT, most importantly, and other college assessments, and will help students know what they need to do to be ready. The SAGE is not a grade, it's not used for retention, and it really is great practice when it comes to standardized assessments. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about SAGE and its ability to predict the ACT. Let's watch this video.
Let's talk for a moment about the SAGE test, what it is, and what it means for students in middle school. Did you know that when a student takes a serious approach on this test, it can estimate how well they will do on the ACT in high school? How do we know this? We took the SAGE scores of 8th graders from 3 years ago and compared them with their current ACT scores, taken their junior year. Guess what? Their SAGE scores reliably estimated how they would do on the ACT. The SAGE test is based on the Utah Core Standards. Those are the things that prepare students for careers in college. If you know the standards and can demonstrate them on the SAGE when younger, then you are already preparing to take the ACT in high school. So why would a middle school student care about this? Because time's on your side. SAGE, as we have shown, is a good indicator of how you will do later in high school. It's not used to calculate your grade, but it's a free opportunity to take a high-stakes test in a non-high-stakes setting. It's a win-win, with nothing to lose and a lot of preparation to gain. So get started today by entering your SAGE scores on our ACT estimator. You might be surprised at the results.
So our thanks to Washington School District for producing that film. Let's go to their website and go to the ACT estimator. So if you take 8th grade SAGE scores and put them into this calculator, we can accurately predict how students will do on the ACT. Let's see how we do here. Oh. And if we click calculate and we scroll on down, then this student probably needs to focus in a little bit more on their ELA score and looks like maybe overall, because their ACT composite in 11th grade is 19. That's a 95% probability. We've actually ran a couple of field tests ourselves with some of our own children, and it's been within 1 point on the ACT composite. So this is actually fairly predictable on SAGE. For math and science, students will receive their scale score and final proficiency level on the screen immediately after they click submit. ELA reading scores, as I said before, will be available within 24 hours. The only thing that would be hampering that return rate is if their writing scores get hung up on needing to be rescored and hand scored. So that might take a little bit longer for them to get that score back. All tests may be split among multiple testing sessions, class periods. There is a rule that you need to be aware of. Questions cannot be viewed or modified if the test is paused for 20 minutes or inactive for 30. So make sure that you're keeping kids going through that test session. Students will begin on day 2 where they left off on day 1, and they won't be able to go back and change any work where they left off on the previous day. And I'm sure that your administrators and their leadership team have set up testing sessions and testing testing schedules for SAGE already. We do need to have a 95% participation goal. Help make sure to send students down when they're requested for their makeup tests. Students need to answer 6 items in order to count as a participant. Opt-out students do not count towards participation or proficiency, and you can see your school's opt-out rate on the school report card in the data gateway. Special codes are used for non-standard situations and non-participants. A blank test will be interpreted as non-participating unless a special code is identified for that test, and so that will zing us on our participation rates. Here are a list of some of those special codes, and those need to be identified prior to going into the SAGE session. Usually your school counselors or your test administrators at your school level take care of those. Testing ethics, those have been loaded into the Safe Schools testing module that Darren typically sends out. If you haven't already taken that, you do need to take that before you're allowed to proctor any tests. So there is a link on that on our Murray City School District website, as well as on this PowerPoint that will be sent to all of your administrators. So make sure that you click on that. There's also a summary on this link of testing ethics do's and don'ts. Some of the biggest things are to make sure that you get rid of any byproducts from any of the testing sessions, any test tickets, scratch paper, notes. All of those things need to be collected and destroyed, and all test materials need to be returned to the test coordinator. So one of the greatest things that we can do to help our students be successful and to give them a win, as we discussed in earlier slides, is to get them into the SAGE portal. I'd like to take you through that very quickly. We want to encourage all of our teachers and educators to do that. So I'm going to click on that link, sageportal.org. And when you get into there are no limits to the number of times students can do that. There are no data collected from this. You need to be aware of that. This simply is an opportunity for you to get your students into any of these training modules. Training Wheels icon, click on that. You go into this unlocked, see that secure link there? You cannot do that. You need to go into this unlocked site. And then this, you just scroll through. You want to be a guest, that's perfectly fine. Click sign in. Yes, you are this guest. You can go ahead and select a grade. In this case, I'm going to select 7th grade because I know we have some educators on this PowerPoint video that are in the 7th grade. I'm going to click yes. And in this case, I'm going to start a Math 7th grade training module. These are all the visual assistance tools that might be available. Go ahead and just scroll on down there, click select. You would have your students doing this as well. You can do this on your projector in your classroom as well, but it really is quite beneficial for your students to go through this process. Click yes again. You do want to make sure that the text-to-speech button works.
This text is being read aloud.
And this is currently being read by Alex. You could also select Fred, Samantha, or Victoria. I'm going to stick with Alex. I did hear the voice, and then I click down. It does give you an overview of all of the test tools that are available, but we're going to figure those out live. In order for kids to have the best opportunity to be successful, we want them to understand all of the tools available. So in this case, here is one of the first questions on the training test. So in this case, it says factor 6x minus 9. We're not interested right now in this particular answer, but I do want to point out to a couple of tools. So in the masking tool, this is an opportunity for students to cover up any unnecessary information. Perhaps it's unnecessary information in the answers, or perhaps it's unnecessary information in the question. This might be a tool that's more valuable on the writing or reading portions of the test. However, that is available for students. The dictionary tool pops up a dictionary. You might need to know what factoring is. Sometimes, if the dictionary, there it is, to find the mathematical factors of, students can use that to their advantage as well. In this case, the calculator is available for their use. If it's not available on the test because it is a computation piece, it won't be available as a tool up here in the toolbar in SAGE. Make sure students know that they can access that. Notes is available. They can type in area equals length times width times height. No, length times width. Or maybe they need to put a note in here that says, maybe a motivator. That note is now available to them on any of the other questions. They do have a zoom in and a zoom out to make those questions a little bit bigger for your visually impaired. But also this menu button right here, if you click on that, they can actually have the questions spoken to them.
Factor 6x minus 9. A. 2 times open parenthesis 3x minus 9, closed parenthesis. B. 3 times open parenthesis 2x minus 3, closed parenthesis. C. 3 times open parenthesis 3x minus 2, closed parenthesis. D. 6 times open parenthesis x minus 9, closed parenthesis.
Again, that option is there when it is available. It might not be available on reading portions of the test where reading it is part of the testing material. There is the strike through option that we want to teach our kids to use. We want to delete any obvious wrong answers, so we want to strike through that one. We want to strike through that one if that's an obvious wrong choice. And then they're going to choose the best answer. And then they go to next. In this case, again, we want the kids to be able to know, and I'm not knowing the answer to this. I didn't read through. I'm not using my best test-taking skills because I do want kids to be familiar with how to add points and know how to use these test-taking skills. Again, speaking the question, you'll notice that there's not a strike-through option because that's not a multiple-choice test. It is a performance-based test over here. I'm going to move on. In this case, you have to drag values, so we do want kids to be familiar with how to use their trackpads on their new Chromebooks or on the lab computers. They do need to know how to do those questions. Again, this isn't about getting the right answer, although we do want them to be familiar with that, but we do want them to know how to use these tools. When they attempt and see these on the Sage, we don't want them to be distracted by how to use any of these boxes, how to create a fraction inside of the Sage portal. Make sure you expose the kids to these options. And again, we appreciate everything that you do for our students in Murray City School District. And remember, we are Murray. We know that we're going to be able to achieve those goals by 2022 because we have the best teachers in the universe. Thank you so much and have a fantastic rest of the spring in 2018.